The One Piece manga has just confirmed some major things, but I think that arguably the most important thing that it just revealed centered around Conquerors Haki. Because finally, my man Scalper Gaban here revealed how to disable the Holy Knight's immortality, and it involves an even stronger awakening of the color of the Supreme King. But that's just the top of the iceberg, because I noticed something else, and it's that Scalper confirmed something very cool, but also in a very unique way. Because finally, after years of dealing with a lot of nonsense online, Zoro's Conquerors Haki is now officially confirmed. But let's be honest here, we all pretty much knew already that that was the case after Kaido pretty much confirmed it too, I think. Plus, he's been ripping black and red lightning in the anime for literal years at this point. But yeah, nonetheless, all the Enma is the secret people can now finally move on, I hope. Zoro is a real conqueror, though he might not be the only one on the Straw Hat crew that has this type of Haki after all, which is what this video is about. Because Scalper says that Luffy's crew has more than one conqueror, and sure, he does ignore Sanji, which is pretty hilarious in this chapter and pretty much goes straight to Zoro, but that phrasing in general is a little bit suspicious, don't you think? Like, why not just say, oh, Zoro has it too, if only Zoro has it, right? I mean, sure, technically he could mean Luffy and Zoro, and that's why he chose to say it that way, but I do want to talk about the crazy and very real potential of some other of Luffy's crewmates having it, and also how a few other real masters of the Supreme King's will make a triumphant return after this arc. Now, I'll admit, I'm a little bit sad because I kind of hope this power to defeat or hurt the Holy Knights to be a power that hopefully more characters would actually be able to learn besides just conquerors. I mean, I know the community wasn't all about it, but the power of love, for instance, did seem hinted at pretty hard, I think. And while I'm still pretty confident that something big is going to happen with music, for example, we do know that it's not going to be how the Straw Hats actually defeat Shamrock and Co. And since it looks like Zoro and Luffy are about to refine the heck out of their Haki skills in a moment, let's talk about another character who might finally awaken his, yes, Sanji. We're talking about Sanji. Look, let's face it here, it will be pretty odd if both wings of the Pirate King don't get this type of Haki. I think with all the animosity, we can kind of agree on that, right? Zoro and Sanji are direct parallels to Rayleigh and Scalper, who are both conquerors too in the end as well. So wouldn't that be kind of weird? I mean, seriously, a badass swordsman with a drinking problem and an absolute unit who is all about love. If I just say it that way, you have no idea which of the two I'm actually talking about, right? And so I do think that narratively, it's very likely that Sanji will also awaken his own Conqueror's Haki, but the bigger question for him is, of course, how and why. Now, Zoro and Luffy having it makes a lot of sense in a lot of ways, because they have dreams of becoming the greatest at something, at least. Luffy wants to be the Pirate King, and Zoro has, of course, decided that he would become the King of Hell, as, you know, that works towards becoming the greatest swordsman. And these kind of showcase that super important kingly quality that awakens Conqueror's Haki. I think it's also why they were the only two people ever to become supernovas on Luffy's crew, but Sanji's dream is discovering the all blue, and I don't know about you, but last time I checked, finding the place where four oceans meet with some nice, under no question, delicious fish, but, you know, it's not exactly a sign of conquering or kingly might, though I guess Sanji would conquer the heck out of the all blue. But when you really take a look at Sanji's other driving motivations and his origins, I feel like that at the very least, there is a solid case to be made for him getting this extra Haki type 2. For starters, he just straight up is royalty, he's a prince of the German kingdom, and his father is a ruthless tyrant. Now, I don't think this is the best point or the best argument here, but there is no denying that when it comes to his genetics, the thing that Sanji tries to often deny, by the way, he is straight up built a conqueror. That's all that the German did. He's straight up a living machine, a weapon of war designed to destroy nations through his lineage factor modifications. And we do know that Sanji has spent pretty much his entire life trying to separate himself from these traits, but if Sanji can truly embrace those inherent German traits and combine them with his will to defend and support the crew, I don't know. I think there's a totally fair case for him awakening the Conqueror's Haki on top of, you know, him being the third in the crew, or, you know, that's a debate, but, you know, he should have it, right? His emotions and love would separate him from the rest of his family, explaining why they haven't, and he has, but also it would really complete his entire post-time skip character arc, which I absolutely loved. Like, Sanji got so much love from Oda, which is absolutely fantastic. On the flip side, though, if sacrificing himself to achieve that power isn't the route that Oda goes, Sanji could quote-unquote conquer his legacy and fully detach himself from those German traits too, and then manifest his third Haki type that way maybe. Plus, let's face it here, if you've been paying attention to how Oda has been drawing Sanji post-Wano, I think you can see the very subtle nods that this direction in some way is actually gonna happen. His eyebrows flip inwards and his body changes, he gets a lot angrier, and he's already expressed the concern to Zoro before ever fighting Queen. Sanji very much knows that the physical awakening he had might come with a heavy cost, but Conqueror's Haki may manifest from his incredible willpower to keep himself in check here. And I mean, hey, I'm not exactly the first person to point this out either, because in chapter 1152, it does seem like Scopper and Sanji continue to talk while Loki explains what happened on that terrible day when Harold was killed right here. Now, I don't know, it could be that Scopper is just explaining how love conquers all, and Sanji's massive love influences could be what finally enable him to go even further beyond and then thus awaken his Conqueror Haki. And straight up, if I'm gonna be real with you, I personally think that Scopper already hinted at how exactly Sanji could get this power boost in chapter 1151. Because here, Scopper makes an offhand remark about how he was actually the second strongest on Roger's crew. And yeah, I mean, I definitely think this is just a joke from Oda to, show that Scopper had kind of a similar rivalry with Rayleigh that Zoro and Sanji have, but am I crazy for saying that this rivalry might be what's straight up necessary to awaken Conqueror's Haki? Like, what if it's as simple as Sanji wanting to be better than Zoro, and to do that, he needs to become a conqueror? And I mean, he kind of needs to. That's really what sets them apart the most at this point. And I mean, think about it. Luffy does it all the time. He needs to beat a very specific enemy and does everything he can do to surpass that person. Zoro does this with Mr. One, Pika, and King, and it's clear that the desire to beat one single person can very much awaken a power-up in the show. And so for Sanji, it could be as simple as gaining a rage-based power-up to prove that he can actually hang with Zoro and maybe even Jinbei. I think it would be kind of hilarious, honestly, and it would definitely complete this entire Sanji character arc that we've been getting ever since Whole Cake. The man has spent the entire series with feelings of inadequacy towards Zoro, so I think it's time to conquer that and show the world the man that he thinks he really is, right? Well, I think we all can agree on that. Now, would I be mad if Sanji doesn't awake Conqueror's Haki? Probably not, maybe a little bit. I think it would be cool to just see him be one of the strongest in the series without this special form of Haki too. Only certain people get that anyways. And since Sanji isn't a Yonko, he doesn't technically need Supreme King Haki to achieve his dreams, and I do think it'd be awesome if he didn't get it and was still dropping bodies during the final war. However, with that being said, I would like it to happen just so we can truly level the playing field for the Zoro-Sanji debate once more, because right now, let's be real, the dude's definitely getting outscaled, at least in the power category. But let's wrap up with Sanji, because I want to talk about a different Straw Hat who could awaken Conqueror's Haki, and boy, if they do, I would absolutely lose my mind. I will literally go crazy right in front of this camera, because it would be the most fitting and awesome way for Oda to take this character in a great direction. Let's talk about, yes, Nami. Because I think she has an even stronger case than Sanji somehow to awaken Conqueror's Haki. Now, frankly, I've had a sneaking suspicions for years at this point that Nami would maybe become a Conqueror's user, and I just haven't had a great excuse in any video I've made so far to talk about all the stacking up evidence until now. So I guess thank you, Yasan, because I needed that vaguely worded line in this chapter to enlighten the world on Nami's queenly majesty. Now, Oda for the longest time has had a tendency to draw Nami with crowns in a bunch of the color spreads and a lot of the promotional art. I know it's not technically in the series, but we do know for a fact that Oda has been teasing a lot of stuff through color spreads and the chapter cover art. I mean, we literally got the Gear 5 design teased in a random color spread based on video games, amongst a lot of other things, and the idea that Oda has been showing Nami time and time again to be a queen, to wear a crown, to even have a little weather queen on her shirt, it just seems to be him hinting that something is really up here. And I do think it could be one of two things. Either it's a hint at her heritage, which is just really interesting in its own way, or a hint at her coming Haki bloom. Now, for the longest time, I have suggested that Nami could very well be from a royal family, and I recently even talked about her being a potential descendant of Emu. But really, as we keep seeing, every member of the Straw Hats comes from from some sort of crazy important family legacy, apparently. I mean, Zoro is the descendant of Ryuma, Sanji is the royalty of Germa, and then we've got crazy lore drops like, I don't know, the fact that Brook might have been straight up a holy knight, and Frankie might be Queen's son, tying him to Matt. So I think Nami having some inherent natural relationship to a powerful conqueror isn't off the table. If you want to know more about all of this, I actually made a whole video about the Straw Hat's potential lineages. But I do think that at the very least, Oda's been hinting at Nami's conqueror status through all of these drawings for many, many years. I mean, come on, seriously, in these two color spreads right here, everyone, including Zoro, is pictured as a knight except Nami and Luffy. And sure, one of them is her in a pretty dress here, but this one is straight up her on a throne. They are different here in royal garb, not to mention that she's always been framed in a position quite opposite to Luffy, as opposed to just being another member of the crew. Heck, I hope you'd agree that she's depicted above even Luffy most of the time on the crew, especially when it comes to, you know, the crew's ordeals and daily shenanigans that they have on the ship. I mean, think about it. There is truly only a single person that Luffy really fears in this world, and it's Nami. She beats him senselessly with love, of course, and still, Luffy will always do whatever he can to make sure that she's happy and okay. Again, that's quite literally her entire character arc in Arlong Park, and I do know that this is supposed to be her vulnerable moment, the moment that she realizes what family is and how she's part of this crew for real, bro. But do me a quick favor here and take a real second look at it from a slightly different angle. Everyone, including, by the way, the cowardly Usopp, locks the hell in for Nami. These boys went in to die for her, and several characters have. I mean, Nami inherently gets people to do things for her, even the most stubborn people, including someone like Zoro. And of course, I'd be silly not to talk about something we all tend to ignore, which is that Nami is truly one of the OG crew members, even more so than Sanji and Usopp. She's been there since the very, very beginning, and so I do think that if there is anyone that actually should be a wing of the Pirate King, it's probably her, right? But I won't be crazy. I do know that Oda has very clearly framed Sanji and Zoro that way, but you know, a loophole here could be giving Nami the conquerors Haki while letting Sanji remain an absolute powerhouse fighter. But hey, honestly, both do really deserve it. If at least one of them gets it, I'd be very happy. But don't take my word for it. I mean, do please. That's the point of this video. But in universe, people have acknowledged this before, and I don't want to be that guy, but come on. I mean, Jinbei literally says it right here, chapter 1058. I do know this is supposed to come off as a gag, but it's also very out of place for Jinbei to make a joke like that in general. Like, the dude is fun, yes, but he's also pretty serious and not a big gag person. I think there is a really decent chance and a good case to be made that a master of Haki, like Jinbei undoubtedly is, would be very much dead honest when he said that Nami has conquerors Haki during this moment. And I mean, hey, if you want to really hit back at me here and go, Manu, you're overthinking it, this is clearly just a joke, my man. Sure, but so was the first time that anyone said that Zoro had conquerors Haki in the series too. Remember, Brook said it as a fleeting comment here, and Zoro said, no, I didn't do that, and it was played off like a joke. But here we are in chapter 1052, Scarper and Luffy going, yeah, duh, of course you have it to Zoro, right? And I also think it might help explain why Zeus is so quick and eager to follow Nami, because if she is a conqueror, like Big Mom, he'd naturally find her to be a great master. Obviously, she treats him a little bit kinder than Big Mom, but she also whips him like a dog, and that inherently seems to double down on this potential Haki reveal, especially since Conqueror's Haki has long been associated with taming creatures and beasts, right? But I do think that the most standout moment that I can point to that really shows off Nami is when she squares up against Kaido. Yes, it happened. Everyone forgot about it because of Gear 5, but yo, this was a moment. Marco here, the dude's freaking out and trying to stop her from stepping in, but when Kaido comes down to say, Luffy is dead, then Nami is the one that actually goes and challenges him. She screams at him, she stands up to him, and tries to put him in his place. I mean, sure, she's crying, but tears aren't a bad thing. I mean, she thinks that Luffy might be dead. Luffy bawls his eyes out all the time, and Nami does this against Ulti, but also to Enel as well. She does not care that her life is on the line. She doesn't care that she can't physically defeat these enemies, at least in her mind. They challenged her beliefs and her faith in her captain, and she's ready to run against anyone who does that. Nami's got a nature and a spirit that go well beyond her physical abilities, and I do feel like that's a perfect sign of a conqueror waiting to be awakened. And with my own future sight Haki, I just realized that some of you are gonna bring up a really good point. She gets walked over by Arlong, right? She's held in captivity and is completely broken, something that Luffy and Zoro would never do. A real conqueror could never be in that position, but straight up, you're actually kind of wrong about that if you think about it that way. Katakuri, Yamato, Boy Hancock, all of these characters were held against their will and had part of their spirit broken. All of them now have this power, the color of the Supreme King, and yet are subservient to others. Katakuri spent his entire life in fear and on his mother's authority, and Yamato and Boa were both kidnapped and forced against their will to follow Kaido and the Celestial Dragons respectively. All of these characters had their spirits broken at different points in their life, so it means nothing if they're serving others and actively oppressed. What matters that at some point they break that cycle and push towards their own beliefs. I mean, come on, you could probably honestly make the same point about characters like Garp or Sengoku. They are Marines who work under higher authorities, yet somehow they can use the color of the Supreme King. A conqueror's will can manifest in many ways for people of varying power levels, and I do think that Nami genuinely has a phenomenal chance of awakening hers at some point in the near future, hopefully. And come on, whether Queen Nami does have a quite nice ring to it, I'm just saying. And you know what else has a nice ring to it? You being a Ohara Patreon. You get access to a bunch of premium and additional content, and I personally think then you'll love it. But with that being said, let's now shift over to talking about another kingly strong hat. You know who I'm talking about, Chopper. I'm just kidding, it's Usopp. I know this is who you thought I was gonna focus most on with the entire Sniper King stuff. I gotta say, yeah, it does check out. I mean, Usopp, slowly, as the series has gone on, has gotten a lot more confident and a lot stronger and really led his own spirit search. The lies that he tells everyone have always seemed to accidentally come true, and now that we've seen the true power of God Imu, Usopp needs to show everyone what a true god can really do. And so I think that him awakening god tier conquerors Haki in the form of God Usopp could very much happen. We do know that he does actually have Haki access already, as we've seen him use it before to defeat Sugar the one time in one, by the way, of the craziest displays of non-advanced observation Hakis I have seen in the story ever. But also, to be completely honest, I'm a little bit torn here too. I mean, it's kind of felt weird that he's been taking such a crazy backseat in Elbaf, considering that it's the arc that we all expected was gonna be his big break here. Classic Oda move, I guess, subverting expectations, though that might be all part of the plan. Because maybe, just maybe, Oda wants us to feel this way, so when he busts out that epic reveal that Usopp has Conquerors Haki in Elbaf and is able to, I don't know, damage Imu, we'd all freak the hell out. Nothing screams brave warrior of the sea more than Usopp, with his trusty slingshot, firing a Conqueror's Haki infused bolts into Imu / Gunko, poor Gunko by the way, or it would be kind of awesome to see him unleash his Haki standing up to, yeah, Dory and Broggy, like his friends. I would love it for the dude. Imagine him taking down the two giants in even stronger forms that he thought were so great on Little Garden. Alright, so that's the crew for you here, right? Because I don't think there are many other people on the crew at this point that could have this power, but there may be one future Nakama that is about to show us what being a king really means. Loki, the rightful king of Elbaf, seems, let's be real, very highly likely to bust out some insane Conquerors Haki, like in one of the next chapters, right? He's in fact the perfect parallel to Luffy in so many ways, but just with a nice little bad guy flair. He worships rocks the way that Luffy worships Shanks, and when faced off with Imu's immense Conqueror Blast, Loki just goes, dang, you guys need my help, right? I can jump in here. That's kind of the telltale sign for me that this dude has to be a Conqueror too, right? My boy here is not scared. He is absolutely amped up. Plus, it kind of explains why Shanks was necessary to capture him, because Shanks is truly the the king of conquerors at this point, and if Loki was rampaging out at the sea, you would need the top dog to come leash up the conquering puppy, right? And since Conqueror has recently revealed that the color of the Supreme King is how the Holy Knights will be defeated, at some point at least, I don't know if they'll be Elbaf, Loki having it must be all but confirmed at this point. We do know that he's got to play a massive part in this upcoming fight, and so I do feel like he's gonna need to rip some absolutely crazy Conqueror's hammer attacks to keep his country safe. And actually, I do want to talk a little bit more about that very specific thing that started this entire conversation. The reason that I wanted to make this video is talk about how the Straw Hats will defeat the Holy Knights and how some of them may need to awaken the true Conqueror spirit to do exactly that. But what I didn't mention is how crucial this whole thing could be for some of the crew's greatest allies to make a return too. You see, if the Holy Knights are gonna be these immortal top-tier enemies in the final war, Luffy's gonna need a couple more conquerors on his side to defeat them, you know, and luckily there are 3 people waiting in the wings to make an absolutely epic appearance to help out Luffy's squads. These people are, drumroll please, the Pirate Empress Boa Hancock, the Mochi Menace, Katakuri, and the person that we see at the beginning of every single chapter for what feels like the last 200 chapters without doing anything, Yamato, one of my favorite characters. Now, all of these people all have reasons to help Luffy out and have all practically sworn allegiance to him at this point. I guess you could argue about Katakuri, but hey, come on, he's a dude, he's a bro, right? All right, Yamato is currently gathering disciples and is almost ready to sail out after Luffy. Boa is hanging out with Rayleigh and will most likely make some sort of move to help Luffy at some point here soon too. And since Big Mom does seem to be out of the picture, I don't know, we still haven't gotten confirmation about that, but Katakuri could absolutely come and help Luffy out too. Katakuri being part of the crew, a dream that I will never let die in my heart of hearts. Especially if Blackbeard ends up being on the world government side in the final war, since he was the one who kidnapped Pudding. This does give Sanji and Katakuri some major reasons to go all out soon enough anyways. Plus, all of them could be crucial in helping mentor the remaining Straw Hats in finally manifesting their true powers. I mean, Nami training under the beautiful Boa Hancock, amazing. Katakuri forcing Sanji to master his inner spirit so he can save Pudding, superb. And Zoro versus Yamato in an all-out Source versus Big Club clash for the ages, yeah, epic. And I also think that they all match up pretty well against the current Holy Knights that we see terrorizing Elbaf. I mean, Boa has a tainted relationship with the Celestial Dragons already, and how incredible would the reveal be that Summers was maybe the person who kidnapped her? Yes, speculation, but just imagine for a moment what an incredible full circle moment that would be. Katakuri's future sight and Trident would make it a super good matchup for Killingham, who has all these dream-based attacks and, you know, also has a Trident. I mean, Trident matchup, kind of sick. And considering his family dominated Fishman Island, it could be a fitting match for him to atone for the sins of his mother, who may have pushed this dude into becoming a Holy Knight through her own tyrannical rule. Who knows? And well, Yamato could be a pretty fun matchup for Gunko, but I do think there is a secret new Holy Knight who's gonna appear soon enough that Yamato would match up against much better. Because we do know that Imo is getting pretty impatient and is really pulling out all the stops with these Domi reversey techniques lately, right? So how insane would it be for them to unchain the heavenly demon, Doflamingo, and convert him into a demon to battle against the crew, huh? I mean, I've just wanted Dofi back, right? Maybe by joining Cross Guild or something, but this right here would be like the perfect fall and rise for his entire character arc. And having Yamato defeat Doflamingo, a person who shares a dark tie to Kaido, would be a very powerful moment for Yamato too, letting them finally break down their father's evil legacy. And yes, I'm getting a little bit lost here in what I would like to happen, but all I know is that the various conquerors are gonna be a massive factor in the endgame of the series, probably the massive factor, and I am all for it. But obviously, we can't talk about this legendary Haki type without discussing the GOAT, Red Hair Shanks. Mr. Wi-Fi Haki himself, the killer future sight, is an absolute monster, and his true history has finally been revealed, and it's all thanks to this tattoo here that we just saw as well. So if you want to learn all about that and why I think that Shanks was supposed to be the next Joy Boy, not Luffy, go watch that video right here. I'm just not used to the video being here yet. I don't know. And as always, thanks for watching. Thanks so much to all of our amazing Patreons, and I will see you in the next video.